Well, time to do the politically incorrect thing as usual, and that's really the way to things, the way to be. You know, actually, I never really took up on this Confederate stuff issue at all until now. Just make something illegal, and I'll go freaking take up for it. That's exactly how it goes. But what are you going to do now? Try to ban the flag of the Confederacy from the Sons of the Confederate Veterans next? And actually, I'm thinking about joining this. I'm probably going to join it because I searched back my lineage and it says on my father's side, hey, they got it. And you know what? What's interesting? There's black people that intermarried white people that got the same lineage and all this other stuff. But I'm going to get on to some other things that you might not have ever heard of, and I'm going to bring up a lot of other interesting points because one of the things I'm bringing up a point on is I think our politicians are the biggest bunch of sellouts going, and they'll cave into anything, man. They're bootlickers. That's all they are. They lick the boots of whatever the hell the winds are blowing, and if the media freaking puts up a storm, and the big money owns the media, the politicians all fall in line. Now, I'm not buying into this stuff that this is a hate symbol or anything like that, not at all. Actually, when I pointed out that I don't know anything about, actually I did look up this guy's Dylann Roof's background. He was born in the United States, but I just found it peculiar that there was nothing Southern about this guy at all that I could tell other than the flag. He was out here with these potted flowers and the scarf and his Ray-Ban glasses and a bowl haircut and nothing like. Actually, his whole demeanor reminds me of East German Stasi police undercover. That's what he reminds me of. Not a Southern guy, so it's like Southern people are pretty freaking friendly type people. They're not into this kind of garbage this guy was. And I suspect it's some kind of psych op. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe that's too much of a stretch, but nothing Southern about this guy other than I could see the flag and actually kind of like put a Soviet flag over here because basically this is what this guy represents to me. But I'll tell you the one thing I'm pissed off at is that, for instance, we got a lot of turmoil here in the United States, and that's what I think they're trying to dish up, is hate and discomfort and all kinds of garbage and civil unrest. And, there's actually these guys like back in 2010, well, it was prior to 2010, it was Igor Panarin, one of the professors. He predicted that the USA was going to break up into 10 sections. The Russians love this. Actually, a lot of the Russians are behind the Texas secessionist movement. You think that's a homegrown movement? Maybe it is a little bit, but then again, they'll push anything they possibly can to divide people up. As a matter of fact, back during the time of the Vietnam War, the KGB was big time pushing the drugs, and they were big time pushing all the protests into colleges just to freaking create more havoc in the United States. They've always been doing this stuff. Now, it turns my stomach even more than this freaking stuff with the, banning the Confederate flag. It's like I never really was into that Confederate flag at all until they freaking banned it. That's good that you banned it, I guess, because now, or you're trying to ban it, you're banning it in government places, but actually, to be more clear about that, they're banning it in government places that were designated historical markers, not like official government places. I don't think it's ever been there. It's just been historical government places, So, actually, our politicians today, if there's ever a problem in the United States and the Russians had to come in and freaking restore order, they'd be bootlicking up to Tsar Putin. All the way. And this guy don't give anything to anybody, man. He's all about number one. It's just a freaking big freaking game where it's amazing how many Americans get behind this guy like he's good. He's garbage, man. He's garbage, man. He's out for number one all the way. He's worse than the freaking elitist in the freaking Wall Street, and that's saying a hell of a lot. It's all an image. It's all a pose. But, actually, all wars, if you look at it, it's whatever the losing side was, that's the side that's the bad side, no matter what war it is. So, you're going to say all these Confederate people that were involved in a war. Actually, it was Andrew Johnson, the successor, not the one that was elected after, not the immediate successor to President Lincoln. He was going to follow the same policies of leniency to the South that basically give him a blanket pardon, except for the main key players that broke away. But a blanket pardon to everybody. But he was having a lot of problems with the Republicans from the North that want to actually freaking crack down really hard on the South and install like military rule and all that kind of stuff. And then when Andrew Johnson, just give you a little history on this garbage, because President Andrew Johnson, he actually fired the Stanton, who was the Secretary of the War. I think he was the Secretary of War at the time, and he was a major ally of the Republicans up north that wanted to do the harsh Reconstruction methods, because the South lost the war. But these are all Americans. This wasn't a foreign country, I'd be more like with the Andrew Johnson side. Now that tells you a lot about why the Democrats. I don't know. The Republicans were more with pushing the civil liberties of the former slaves, and the Democrats were more with leniency towards the South. But then again, I would agree with pushing the rights of the former slaves and also leniency to the South at the same time, because I got an actual true liberal mind. I don't like a lot of rules, but this Stanton guy was a freaking rule freak. He was going against the policies of Andrew Johnson, but he had a law passed where the president could not fire the cabinet member, and when he did, that's when he got impeached. That was the first president that got impeached. But he was saying the law was unconstitutional, but was still a law. It wasn't challenged in the courts yet. Now it's like a little bit of a history, but there's a lot of garbage that was going on, a lot of tensions during those times. But the thing is, by actually banning this flag from historical sites that are like, it's a historical site. It's not an official government site where it's the flag of South Carolina state government. No, it's an historical site maintained by, say, the government of South Carolina or Tennessee or whatever that has a flag, and they're all trying to ban that shit. I'm saying it has nothing to do with it. It's just an historical site. That's all it is. But anyway, the one thing we got to worry about coming, and I'm going to get on to something else that might shock you before I get into that. One thing we got to worry about that's upcoming, I never liked this freaking phrase when they called it human resources. You remember back before in all the corporations, they call it the personnel department. Then they call it the human resources. It's almost like everybody's a capital asset. And, that's actually how slavery was regarded back then, as a capital asset. Now, on the flip side of it, I don't really know exactly what happened, but I know it was a mixed bag. But I know one thing. If anybody even, they have the immoral ownership of people, even if it's considered a capital asset, for instance, that just common sense says if that's your capital asset, you don't ruin your capital asset, you take care of your capital asset. But there was a lot of controls, and the thing is, people that were bound by slavery back at that time, they had to have permission to go off the plantation and written permission. They couldn't go here. They couldn't congregate in too much bigger groups because they're afraid of rebellions. I know like a lot of stuff that was how they controlled things. But then again, on top of it, what do we got coming up currently where we're all getting freaking screwed over is we got like cell phone tracking of everybody. We got tracking of IP addresses on the internet. We got, they're going to have Google cars pretty soon. Or I think already they have it where they can track your car, but they don't need to even track your car. They can track you by your cell phone. Everything's going to be controlled one way or another, but it's all by these really high-tech corporate yo-yos. And, they're the people that are actually installing a new type of slavery for just about everybody in a different way. Now, I think there's also going to be euthanasia in the future where people get older. They're just going to pull the plug on them and say, screw it. We're not going to spend any money on you for medical bills. That's going to be one of the things like with government-controlled health care. In other words, if you get to be 70, 75 or whatever, even if you're in great health and you freaking, running 3 miles a day or more, even if you can run a marathon, they'll freaking say, oh, too bad, because some bureaucrat can arbitrarily make a decision. Now, actually, I did look back and research, because I can tell you one thing. The major media doesn't really portray the slave issue exactly correct in the United States. They always make it look like the worst guys that were the white guys on the top were they always portray that. But, I looked in some of those rosters back, on ancestry.com, and I saw like a 95-year-old woman was, still in this household. It was, the slave, indentured servant. And, I thought to myself, in today's corporate world, with the new freaking restrictions they're going to have on, how much resources they're going to give to people for health care, they probably would have pulled the plug on her back when she was 72, and she wouldn't have been alive, went up to 95. So, I almost look at it like, I don't think the relationships were all, I guess it depended on who the hell it was, but I don't think the relationships were all that rigid, even though the rigid laws were there. I don't think they were like as rigid as you think in practice. That's one of those things that they do psych ops on people to make it look one way, and I don't know, it was a mixed bag. That's what I'm pretty sure of. Although I can't tell you because I wasn't there, and I can't freaking go back with a time camera and freaking figure out exactly what happened. But there's some indications that it wasn't exactly the way the major media says. But what we got coming up in the future is actually where everybody's going to be basically on an Indian reservation one way or the other, and we're all going to get screwed. If a worker's tips exceed the wage ceiling, he must split his windfall with his master, his employer. Basically, there's a lot of garbage going on. It's actually, and the USA right now is actually the biggest home of prisoners per capita, and we got that big prison industries going, which is exactly slavery. It's exactly slavery. That's actually the worst. Because to tell you the truth, if I was a prisoner, I'd rather be on a plantation of about 50 acres where I can go outside all the time and do what the hell I want, or do your 8 hours of work, and then you got some freedom of movement on that whole thing than being freaking inside of cell block number 3B. And that's basically the kind of slavery they got going on today for minor drug infractions. 3 strikes, you're out. But the other interesting thing is, and I'm not going to knock the United States flag here or nothing, because I'm not going to knock the Confederate flag, the United States flag, or the British flag or anything, but slavery existed under the U.S. flag before the Confederate States broke away. So, slavery existed under the British flag. But then there's a lot of hypocritical yo-yos out there, and actually I'm going to get into something else here, because I'm going to show you a blog from somebody. Actually, she's a lesbian conservative, because, that's the thing, somebody can be a lesbian and conservative, right? And I'll point you the link on this. I'm just going to show you a snippet of it, but just give you a little interesting things. She says that it looks very much that Obama ancestry, which goes back to Kenya, he was part of the freaking group of blacks that were selling other blacks to the slave people that was in the slave trade. And she goes on to a lot of different things in this blog. I'm actually going to point to a link on it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to give you an idea. Now, she's a conservative lesbian. That's just like, so she's saying one thing in one way that's politically incorrect that's what I'm saying. Nobody is actually fits every group exactly the same. And, if they're going to freaking start banning you for this and banning you for that, it's a matter of, there's different snippets of different facets of everybody. These rule freaks that are on the top that call themselves liberals, they're a bunch of myopic freaking control freaks. That's exactly all they are. But anyway, she goes on to say that, I'll just read from it real quick here just to give you a little idea. And you can look at her whole blog about what she accuses Obama of. The one reason may be that the New World blacks could be descended from West Africans. Yeah, I knew that. Most of the trade was from West Africa. She says that she's suspicious for another reason, that Obama, on both his mother and his father's side of his family in Kenya, is descended from people who owned and sold black African slaves. And that would make sense. Probably that's why the white elite establishment has him, and that's what I always accused him of being. Barack Obama, Uncle Tom Barack Obama that sells everybody out down the river. How ironic that Obama received almost universal support from blacks who are here because their ancestors are grabbed up and sold into slavery by other black Africans, including Obama's father's tribe. And she tells you where it first came up in a story published in the Baltimore Sun on March 2nd, 2007. So this information was known, and interesting, that was in the Baltimore Sun. So anyway, there's a lot of different things with this yo-yo, and he's not what you freaking think he is. But anyway, actually, this is actually where the slave coast was, but a lot of it came from inland, and people that were at war with other tribes captured those people, and either they were enslaved into their tribe, or they were sold to the other guys, and they went over here to the United States. So, anyway, shit is like more complicated than you think. But, I look at this issue and I say to myself, Obama seems to be jumping on the issue with the gay rights and, applauding that and everything like that. But then again, he ignores other issues at the same time. But the thing is, I don't think you should get involved in any of these type of issues. The United States doesn't need that many rules. We don't need a Czar Putin. We don't need, like, freaking congressmen that are going to be freaking telling us exactly what to do about every little issue there is because the media says something. And, I don't really give a damn. That was from a lesbian conservative blogger. So you can look at that. And, I already see that there's a lot of people in the United States that are hoping that Vladimir Putin just comes in and straightens everything out. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's part of the plot. That was something I read many years ago that basically the Russians are looking for counting on total financial collapse in the West and, basically division for people to start fighting each other. They've always been trying to do this. Like I said, they're behind this secessionist movement in Texas. The Russians are partly behind that and trying to push that because it puts discord in the United States. And what is going to be introduced, because actually Vlad is actually part of the New World Order, and so is Obama, when there is a discord in the United States and they got to come in and change everything and come, that's another buzzword, we are change, when they have to change everything and they have to throw out the old system because of all the discord and all the freaking problems that are going on, what's going to be introduced is a type of hybrid communist capitalist system with a human face run by the elite. But, that's one reason even about the Vlad phenomenon, too, where he's looking like the good conservative guy. Now, this guy, I don't know 110% about exactly what the deal was with him, but, I think his main thought processes are not about Southern history or Confederacy or anything like that. He's got an East German Stasi attitude and a hater all the way. There was no, where this guy, his morality or whatever his code of beliefs are, you don't see that in the, the Southern redneck types. And, the one thing I pointed out is I've never seen a Southern redneck type ever spit on an American flag, ever. And this guy did. That just reeks of, communist Nazi stuff or something. I don't know what the hell it is. It's almost like, I don't know what this guy was about. But, if you took away, this was actually a Confederate flag he was holding here. I put a Soviet flag. But basically, this is what this guy reminds me of. But, I'm going to tell you, I was never really into this stuff with the Confederacy. I mean, I had respect for it. It was like I realized, Southerners are, well, it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's like every Southerner is like perfect. I know that. But, it's like, it's a mixed bag. But I never really thought about it one way or the other. But now it's like since they're going and attacking this, I'm going to support them. And, well, it's almost the same way, people viciously attack people unfairly, I immediately support them. Now, if the Sons of Confederacy were telling everybody you got to fly a flag of Confederacy on your house in every freaking town in the United States because this was the South, I'm like, nobody puts down, if people do their own thing. If this is what somebody's about with the Confederacy, they do their own thing, whatever the hell it is. But I can tell you, the people on the top are playing a lot of games. And they're trying to create hate and division. And right now they're attacking the sons of the Confederate veterans. Now, I came out, it's a mixed bag. I see also on the internet, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm thinking it also comes from the elite. They're always attacking Israel, right? Now, I know that's not necessarily, in my favor when I defend that. But then again, I look at it like this, people do their own thing. It's a matter of, if that's where you're from and that's your thing, you do your own thing. If you're not freaking, everybody's an individual, Now, I know like Obama, he addressed the situation with the Charleston, South Carolina massacre, but he didn't address anything with, the 5-time exported illegal alien from Mexico that killed a woman in cold blood right in front of her father and threw the gun in the river because he just felt like killing some gringo. Where's Obama on that issue, He's not on that issue. He's not on that issue, and he never will be. because he's a one-way. He's got his own opinion on anything, and he sits up there in his multicolored Fruit Loop colored house or whatever the hell it is, and he does what he wants. But all this, I think, even the Obama phenomena is a psych op to get conservative Americans behind this freaking yo-yo Vlad, Czar Vlad, and he's another freaking bad thing. Just like we got supposed conservative Jeb Bush, you guys a yo-yo too. But I guess what I'm trying to really say in this video is that almost all the politicians are freaking weasels or sellouts, and you know what? They freaking said this way back when they made the Constitution. The government that governs least is the government that governs best, right? They always said that. We don't need czars, we don't need kings, we don't need freaking people making a bunch of myopic bullshit rules. We don't need people entangling us in foreign wars or nothing like that. But I think enough people got enough common sense on this issue to see through it. And anyway, I don't know. There might be a backlash because, I never freaking thought I'd ever considered, trying to join the Sons of the Confederate Veterans. Because I don't know. I just never thought about it, man. I just never thought about it. Now I'm like thinking about it. Well, I'm gonna look into it, see if I get into it and do it. But it's like you got hypocrites all over the freaking place, and I don't know what kind of proof this lady or this girl or woman has about Obama and his descendants from both his mother and father's side of the family were owners of slaves and also sold black African slaves. And, that would make a lot of sense why the white elite establishment got this guy in there as Uncle Tom Obama. What's his game? And looking at this stuff is history, right? Which the scary part is this. The scary part is really this. History is one thing because it's in the past. History ain't really going to hurt you. What's coming up in the future, man? And if we get taken over by a world government, they're going to ban this flag. Got it? And if anybody commits a crime that did it in the name of God or Jesus, they'll ban the Bible. Right? Obama, they selectively do these things too. It's like, there's so many different things they could have banned already, but doesn't that remind you of some kind of crap from the Hitler-inspired Nazis? They do it piecemeal, one group at a time. Because you did this, that means everybody that, since you identified with that, you're the bad guy there, and everybody that identifies with that, that's illegal now. We don't need these kind of rules over here in the United States, man. And, like I said, before the Confederate flag was around, the U.S. flag, and slavery was all over the place. The first places they made it illegal, I think, was in New Jersey. And then, it was one of the first states. But then again, if you go to, it wasn't really economically big over New Jersey. And if you go to New Jersey today, you can see that everybody today is pretty much a slave to excessive property taxes and regulations and fees and all this other bullshit. I mean, everybody's a damn hypocrite, man, to the max. And it kind of looks like Obama is. I don't know what this... I'm going to point to that link about that research from the lesbian conservative, what she said about Obama. Actually, him being his family's roots going all the way back in Kenya as being slave owners and slave traders and sellers on both his mother and father's side. Pretty interesting, man. That makes him worse than anybody, the biggest plantation owner in the South, because actually most people in the South didn't own slaves. They just were told to fight on a war for somebody and do this and do that, and they died on the battlefield or they got injured and they had artificial limbs. And also looking is, it's just part of it. It's a part of American history. It's a sad part of American history, but it's a part of American history. So, and I know the major media likes to present it in a totally different way. They've already got people brainwashed to the max about every damn thing. But there's an agenda, man. Destroying the United States and remolding it under a communist, hybrid, capitalist system run by the elite. I've been aware of this for many years. It's taken a long time, but they're moving. They're moving ahead, and I'm fighting them. That's all I got to tell you. I'm fighting them. So anyway, when you look at this issue, look at all sides, and beware of the wolves in sheep clothing. And that's really what I see with Obama as. Yeah, he's from Africa. Well, the other thing is, I don't know if you know. I'm not buying into that birth certificate thing because I freaking saw that thing, man. That was like a joke. That one he posted up there, that was like so crudely done. I don't think he was even born here, born in Hawaii, like they said. But he claims that was a total forgery. But total separate subject. Then again, looks like he's got roots all the way back to the slave system that everybody's saying was evil. But everybody's saying the Confederate flag is evil because it was associated with slavery, and here it looks like a President Barack Obama's ancestors are all freaking connected to that, except he was selling those slaves and owning the slaves out of Africa. Big time hypocrites, man, all the way.